What if I told you that in just 5 seconds, Oscar Piastri exposed one of the biggest weaknesses of the Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 team? And at the same time revealed the secret weapon that McLaren had been hiding for months. Because what happened at the start of the Japanese GP was not normal. It was not just a great reaction. It was a perfect execution in a new technical era where almost everyone is lost. While others hesitated with energy management, Piastri did something that no one expected. Attack from the dirty side, overtake 2 rivals in seconds and escape as if he had another car. And here comes the really worrying thing for the rest of the grid. This was no coincidence. McLaren has been quietly working on something very specific. Something that even Mercedes is already desperately trying to copy. The question is, are we seeing the beginning of a new technical advantage that can change the order of Formula One from the first corner? What we saw in Suzuka was not simply a good start. It was the first clear indication that something is changing within Formula One, and that McLaren has understood before anyone else how to adapt to this new technical era. Because to understand what Oscar Piastri did, you have to go far beyond the moment itself. You have to understand the context. In 2026, exits no longer depend only on reflexes or mechanical traction. They are now a millimeter exercise in energy management. Without the MGUH, teams have to completely rebuild the way they deliver power in those first few meters, and that's where the problems, or the advantages, begin. While many teams are still trying to understand how to avoid energy losses or delivery spikes that compromise traction, McLaren had been working exclusively on this point for months. It wasn't visible, it didn't appear in the qualifying times, it didn't generate headlines, but they were building something silent and extremely specific, a perfect start. And when the lights went out in Japan, all that work exploded in a matter of seconds. Piastri not only reacted well, he executed a procedure that seemed completely optimized. He attacked on the dirty side, which in theory is a clear disadvantage, but his car responded with stability and traction that we simply didn't see in the others. In less than 5 seconds he had already surpassed 2 direct rivals and had taken the lead. But this is where the story gets even more interesting, because this wasn't just a driver, it was a car. The MCL40 has a feature that many overlooked. A shorter wheelbase than its rivals, which gives it superior agility when changing direction and, above all, in that critical phase of initial acceleration. Less inertia, more ability to react, more efficiency in the first meters. And that explains something key. Why Piastri was able to do what he did, but also why he couldn't maintain the lead. Because although McLaren has found a very concrete advantage at the starts, the race pace still belongs to Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 team, which continues to have a more complete package throughout the stint. Even so, the message has already been set. McLaren doesn't need to be the fastest car in all phases. If it can gain positions in the first few seconds, it completely changes the development of the race. And this is where the real story begins. Because what happened in Japan not only surprised the fans. Inside the paddock, some teams are already reacting. And there is one in particular who cannot afford to be left behind. Mercedes. And this is where everything changes, because what seemed like just a great start actually set off an alarm within the paddock, especially at Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 team. Because Mercedes won the race, yes, with Kimi Antonelli showing that they have the most solid package in race pace. But there is one detail they can't ignore. During those first seconds they were completely vulnerable. And in today's Formula One, losing position at the start can define absolutely everything. What McLaren showed was not just aggressiveness, it was technical efficiency in its purest form. While Mercedes dominates in clean air, tire management and consistency throughout the stint, there is a phase where they are not the best, the start. And that, in such a tight championship, is a huge problem. Within the German team they know it. Because when you analyze the data, Oscar Piastri's performance is not easily replicable. It's not just reaction, it's not just setup. It's a combination of car architecture, mass distribution, power delivery and prior preparation on the grid. It is a complete system. And this is where the real tension begins. Because Mercedes can't redesign its car overnight. Its concept is longer, more stable at high speed, but less agile in that initial phase. That means that if they want to respond, they have to find solutions within a very limited range. Meanwhile, McLaren has discovered something extremely valuable. They don't need to dominate the entire race. They just need to gain position at exactly the right moment. And this opens a dangerous door for the rest. Because if McLaren perfects this system, if it manages to combine that start with a progressive improvement in race pace, then we would no longer be talking about a one-off surprise. We would be talking about a real change in the hierarchy. And the most interesting thing of all is that Japan could have been just the first warning. And then we reach the key point, where all this stops being an anecdote and becomes a real threat. Because if the Japanese GP has made anything clear, it is that McLaren is no longer experimenting. It is executing. And that completely changes the scenario for the rest of the grid. Until now, you could allow yourself to think that what happened with Oscar Piastri was an isolated moment, a perfect exit at the right time. But when you start to put together all the pieces, the previous work, the concept of the car, the adaptation to the new regulations, you understand that this has continuity. And that is where the real problem appears for Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 team. Because copying this is not easy. It's not about adjusting an engine map or improving the driver's reaction. We're talking about a different car philosophy. An architecture that favors agility in the first meters, a specific preparation on the grid, and a much more advanced understanding of how to exploit energy in this new era without MGUH. Mercedes can try to adapt, and she will, but she will be late. Because while they react, McLaren is already iterating, already perfecting, already polishing the details that can turn this specific advantage into something systematic. And this is where everything becomes even more dangerous. Because if McLaren manages to take that next step in race pace, if it manages to close that gap that still separates it in long runs, then there will be no way to contain them. It will no longer be a matter of defending positions. It will be a matter of surviving each exit. And in a Formula One where every detail counts, where every meter gained at the start can define a victory, what we saw in Suzuka could have been the beginning of something much bigger. Not just a big exit, but the birth of a new way of winning races. But there is an even deeper point that almost no one is seeing, and it is what really makes Japan so dangerous. Because until now we have talked about the execution, the car, the point advantage, but the real change is in the mentality with which McLaren is facing this new era. McLaren is not trying to copy Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 team, it is doing exactly the opposite. While Mercedes has built a car designed to dominate clean air, long stints, total consistency in ideal conditions, McLaren has identified a point in the regulations and the car's behavior where it can make an immediate difference, and has decided to exploit that to the maximum. And this is key, because it completely changes the way you plan a weekend. It's no longer just about qualifying well, it's about having a weapon at the start. It's not just about taking care of tires anymore, it's about getting in front before degradation even comes into play. And this has a brutal domino effect, because it forces drivers like Kimi Antonelli or even entire teams to rethink how they defend the first corner. It forces changing engine maps, grid procedures, even the way the clutches and power delivery are prepared. Everything starts to revolve around those first meters. And while some react, McLaren is already one step ahead. Because they are not improvising. They already have it integrated into their competitive DNA. And this is where the advantage stops being technical and becomes strategic. Because if you know that you can gain positions at the start, you can risk more in qualifying, you can propose different strategies, you can completely condition the race of your rivals from second one. And that's what's really scary. Because it's not just what McLaren has done. That's all you can start to provoke from now on. And in the end, it all comes down to a single idea. What we saw in Japan was not a simple spectacular exit. It was a sign. A sign that McLaren has found a different path. One that does not depend solely on having the fastest car, but on understanding better than anyone where races are really won in this new Formula One. Because for years the focus has been clear: pace, degradation, strategy, but now a new decisive factor appears: the first seconds. And that's where Oscar Piastri has shown that real advantages can be built before the race even begins. While Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 team continues to be the reference in global pace, McLaren has opened a crack. A small weakness that, if not corrected, can completely change the balance of power. And that leaves us with a question much bigger than a simple way out. What if this isn't McLaren's ceiling, but just the beginning? Because if they manage to turn this advantage into something constant, if they manage to complement these outings with an increasingly competitive car in the race, then we will no longer be talking about surprises. We will be talking about a new real candidate for dominance. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.